On Bike Rebellion this week, I spoke to Nicole Burgess. Nicole is a San Diego native, a mom, a bicycle traveler, and a legendary bike mobility advocate. In this conversation, we talk about bicycling with kids, bike ambassadors, bike buses, and how bike infrastructure spending affects mode shifts. Nicole has been doing this work for decades, building relationships with local leaders, and enduring the glacial pace at which infrastructure projects get built in San Diego. I especially appreciated her take on how we enlist and incentivize leaders and citizens to build and use the safe infrastructure that we so badly need in the United States. We met with Nicole on June 6th, 2025 at her Velocita in Ocean Beach. Enjoy. On Bike Rebellion this week, we're speaking to Nicole Burgess. Nicole is a old school advocate here in San Diego. I've known you for probably 10 years now, if not more, being involved in sort of the advocacy scene here. And I wanted to have Nicole just because she has so much experience and knows sort of everybody in all of the systems that we, generally are trying to affect on this program. Nicole, if you would just take a few minutes and introduce yourself, sort of tell us who you are, sort of what is important to you, what your passions are, and
Thanks, Brian. Yeah. Thanks for coming out. And my name is Nicole Burgess, and I live over here in Ocean Beach, Point Loma area. Beautiful place to live and play. And native San Diegan. I grew up in Bonita. Okay. Actually, believe it or not, I used to ride my tandem bike. He would put me on the back, and I'd ride from Bonita to National City to visit cousins. So that's kind of like maybe rooted me into the bicycling scene. Wow. But also have a little bit of Dutch blood, so sometimes I say it's in my DNA. And then lived here for 28 years, and kids and family, and just really trying to be just conscious of our environment.
28 years in OB, but you grew up in Bonita.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And
you found paradise here, it seems.
I did. I actually went to Chico University, and then all of a sudden, all the little hippie kids up there in Chico were like, "Oh, Ocean Beach," and I'm like, "Ocean Beach? Where's Ocean Beach?" And I grew up in Bonita, went to Coronado, and but Ocean Beach then was like, "Oh, I'm going to Ocean Beach," right?
Yeah.
And you decided to come home. Good. I'm glad. This is Miss Harley, and she loves to ride on my bike, and usually is in a basket and going on my bike travels with me because my kids are grown and they no longer will travel with me by bike.
Yeah. So you're obviously very passionate about bicycles. When did that really shift gears for you? Because there was probably an inflection point at some point along the way where you went from being a bike rider to really taking it seriously as a transportation mode and everything that you've done. So
yep.
Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I was definitely had a little bit of biking in my blood, but it didn't really occur to me until the kids were, going to Ocean Beach Elementary, and we lived less than a mile. So we would walk, bike, skateboard, these little kids, it was easy just getting down to school every day, or whatever way we did it. And in this Point Loma area, the kids go to another school in 5th grade. So about 10 years old, they're off to another school, Dana Middle School. And that was a little farther. That was about 1.5 miles. And I said, you guys, come on. This is,
let's do it on a bike versus
This
driving.
is actually too far to walk, but yet it's too close to drive. Let's try a bike. And it was my oldest daughter and a couple of friends. And we'd meet at a little corner and we'd just socialize and enjoy the nice meagery ride, ride up to Dana Middle, which involved
some work.
2 blocks on Nimitz Boulevard, which is high speed, 50 mile per hour, facility type way, So, there was a little bit of thrill in there, but we were together and we were a pack and we were enjoying the ride. So we kept doing it every day. And sure enough, a couple more kids would join and we'd encourage others to come along. And the kids, every year it kind of grew and grew. And my kids, it's only 2 years school, so it's just 5th and 6th graders. So that's like the prime time where kids find how beautiful it is to ride a bike and how much independence there is and freedom and joy. And And then the boy comes along and all his boys come and all these girls come and
Right.
now we got a bigger pack. And, it was started off, first year, second year, I was like, God, this is so crazy and dangerous. So can we just get a share the road sign?
Yeah.
And at this time, I remember the city had one bicycle guy for the bicycle team,
Right.
and it was half position. And I remember him, and he had big, dreams for a half position of dedicating us, to bikes.
Right. So there were no resources at that point.
There weren't that many resources. So it was very, very much just scratching at the.
Right.
And believe it or not, somehow I ended up finding Sandag as my mission. And I was like, whoa, if I can get 18 mayors at the table, or, representatives from 18 of all our cities in San Diego County.
Right.
Why not speak to all of them at one time? And that became a regular mission, just going down to Sandag and enjoying, trying to advocate there as best as possible as I could.
And things have obviously changed there over the years. I think just active transportation in general is necessarily taken more seriously, but it still doesn't really get us to where we need to be in terms of climate goals, for example, or safety Vision Zero goals. It's still half measures that are being taken, but you've been in that fight for a long, long time, and the lay of the land and the contours of it as well as any advocate that I've ever seen. But
I can recall that it was probably the third year of the bike train, so my kid was the second one.
And so that's like 25 years ago, right?
No,
or 20?
It's like 12 years ago.
Oh, okay. Because your one daughter is 26, right?
Okay. So 15 years ago.
Okay.
15 years ago. And it was 2012 when they passed the measure for the $200 million EAP projects. And I remember and Gloria was on that board. He was a better mobility champion than he unfortunately is now. But I took about 3 or 4 kids and we spoke about the beauties and joys of riding a bike and support the 200 million, and that we got it. It was so exciting, and it's kind of painful to watch how long it can take the agency to build those.
The projects just take forever to happen.
Whatever.
Like another 15 years in a lot of cases, right?
Yes. And still, I haven't been to Sandag in years, and I just went this last go around because it was another, threat against the money that was already allocated to these projects that already have swapped for, that's already got extra grant funding towards it. And yet we're still fighting. We keep those projects
exactly, and all of the studies and stuff that need to be done, and then all of the hard work that Sandag's doing on the designs and stuff, and then the funding's not there after it's been allocated. That it's tragic in a lot of cases. So, what are your sort of transportation with your kids and stuff? It was sort of the inflection point that got you serious, I think, about cycling. What are the other reasons why you do it? Say top 3.
I was going to say, like, transportation,
it's
right? It's everything.
It's everything. I understand.
When the city kind of comes out and they ask you those 8 reasons why you bike, is it transportation, environment, cost savings? I don't have to worry about parking. I love it. It's joy. It's health. It's all of it.
Yeah.
It's all of it.
Yeah. I totally agree.
And to try
to pick out a top 3.
To pick out the top 3.
I totally understand.
Is probably just really, truly the health and wellness of myself.
Yeah.
So as you know, I just gave you a little tour of this crazy home project that I've had. So I haven't been biking as much this last year.
I've seen you several times biking around, but it's not as much as I normally do.
And I will say, even my Strava friends are like, where are you? What happened to you? And I'm like, and I can definitely tell in my health that I have missed it.
Okay.
It has definitely affected my health. It is my meditation. It is my yoga. It is my peace of mind. And then you can act on the joy of just like, see, I can get here on a bike. The true power of it is just like, I don't have to be stuck in a car.
Yeah.
I don't have to be confined to that space, because that is actually where it brings me like the most stress and anger.
In the car.
Oh yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Just having to be in that commute space and that high speed space. And
there's a level of anxiety, and me and my dog are kind of the same that way. My dog hates getting in the car.
Okay.
And he learned that from me, obviously. And he'll get on the bike, no problem.
Oh, that's so funny. That's great. That's great.
So,
and I will say, I think, yeah. And so in reality, the multitasking is probably one of the biggest things for biking, right? That's not ever asked, but multitasking, you can do all those wonderful things, get all those benefits at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's really, truly.
We obviously all make sacrifices in doing this, whether it's the time it takes or, various other things. Are there any sacrifices that you want to share that we could sort of prepare people for, is kind of the idea?
I make more sacrifices going in a car.
I agree. Yeah.
I'd say the only sacrifice.
Your hands get cold at night.
Honestly, the hardest sacrifice is when you can't do something because a friend doesn't want to do it with you because you're going to go buy a bike. That's the hardest one.
Yeah.
So having your core group of friends that are like, no.
Yeah, we want to drive.
We're going to drive.
It's cold out. My hair.
Or the friends, or sacrifices. My mom lives in Escondido, so it is a commute. It is a distance to get up there. And
do you ride up there?
Wow. And I got a nice new e-bike.
Wow,
so it really gets me there in the nick of time. It takes me still 3 hours to get there, but
it's a long bike ride. But you do it less, but you still do it.
It allows me that ability to get up there.
Escondido is about 45 miles,
it's
50
about 35,
miles each
40
way?
miles each way, 2,000 feet.
It's a good ride.
It's good. It's good. Yeah.
It's a good ride. So really those are the sacrifices. That's pretty good compared to all the advantages.
Right.
You've obviously participated in a lot of clubs and organizations and bike rides and stuff over the years. Is there anything going on now that you're involved in bike wise? Whether you're probably more involved with the advocacy stuff, but are there any cool rides other than that you're doing? Group rides, fun
group
stuff?
Rides. I do love Climate Ride. So I do Climate Ride, which is a great organization that, helps. They lead wonderful rides, and then you're able to fundraise for the organizations that you choose for. Bike SD, Bike Coalition. There's actually 200 beneficiaries.
Yeah, and you travel for those.
I do.
Yeah.
And usually I'll make it an extra long bike travel weekend, and try to get there by bike. And that is one of the challenges is, going across the country for a bike event that's raising funds for climate awareness is, part of it. But yet I could be taking a vacation to travel in a hotel in a car. So, it's what I'm prioritizing my time for that.
Yeah.
I will say locally though, and I do love to ride. I love riding with groups and stuff, but I'm not a fast rider. So I technically will, tend to stay away from those club rides because they're just going to haul butt to a circle, sometimes a loop, or for coffee, which is great. But I tend to like pit stops and watching everything else around me, observing everything else around me. But I did see a new group that I have not partaked in that I am very interested in, and that is the new group LSD, which is long, slow distance. And I think that rolls right into my...
Yeah, you'll fit right in.
I can go days.
That's cool. So... is there anything you've been like listening to news wise or music wise? Anything like that? Anything? No,
I love all the good music, right?
You like old
man, there's nothing better with good tunes on your bike, right?
Yeah. What do you listen to when you ride?
Well, I did the last concert I went to was Dead and
Grateful
Company
Dead.
at the Sphere, so that was super fun.
Nice.
So, get the good music rolling and, those
Deadhead.
hills you only need one song to get up a hill with the Grateful Dead.
Yeah. Cool.
But what was I going to say about music? Because music is always good to have in your life. And so, I think it's important.
How do you listen to music when you ride?
I tend to have a speaker.
Got a little Bluetooth?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do too.
Tend to love it, one, because then when I sing, nobody else can hear them. The speaker kind of muffles my singing because I love to sing through the traffic.
Cool.
And also I think it's just also like when people can hear you coming as well, like, and I turn it down. You can definitely have to adjust it with the noise of everything else in life. But,
I have a pretty sweet setup where I can adjust the volume real easy, and I can fast forward the song real easy.
Exactly.
And it's just, and it's that simple, and that's really all you need.
Exactly. So.
Cool. So getting into, like the idea is to sort of try to prepare people for life by bike and sort of inform them of what we've figured out over the years and specific sort of hacks and things that they'll need to know to, number one, stay safe, stay comfortable, keep their bike safe. In terms of, security, for example, I assume you're doing like a bolt lock sort of thing.
I have a nice big lock. You got to invest a good amount into the lock. No cable locks. A lot of times double. That cafe lock on the tire is always nice.
On your Farad.
I always feel like if you just intentionally be mindful of where your bike is and your eyes are on it intentionally, maybe not really.
And park it in places. Oftentimes they'll put bike racks in places that are way out of the way. No cameras, just some dark corner, and you're much better off being at the parking meter out in front of the coffee shop or just somewhere with a lot of traffic and visibility. I think that's probably more important than the lock that you choose. I mean, I think a U-lock is obviously necessary for leaving your bike more than a couple of minutes. But
and I'll say also, I know your bike is heavily loaded, and I like to be loaded with the 2 saddlebags, keep you balanced. So I always have tons of stuff in there. I've never worry about the bags. I leave everything in there. I feel like the more stuff on a bike, the less chance they're going to steal it. Because they want that clean bike that has nothing on it.
Yeah.
They don't want to leave any paper trails. That paper trail is bad. So, and honestly, like,
So just load up with accessories.
Put stickers on it. Put bells on it. Put jewelry on it. Put cute things on it. So you can go buy it. If it's stolen, you can actually it's painted, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that key or that chain mark or that special whatever is on there. So my, unfortunately, I had a couple bikes stolen. They were actually out of a car. So it wasn't, it was just unfortunate events. But it was retrieved because the handlebars were unique and they didn't take the handlebars off. So, those kind of things.
How'd you find that?
The guy that lost it I was ridden in front of the shop and he saw it and he went out and chased the guy down. He's like,
no kidding.
That's Nicole's bike. That's not leaving my eyes this time.
Awesome.
It was a unfortunate event. So, so he did well and he recovered the bike. And the beauty is
that's a beautiful story right there. He
was actually on University Avenue and there's a gate in the middle and he's like, that's not your bike. You need to return it. Otherwise I'm going to call the cops and I'll meet you at the end of the fence. And the guy ended up taking off and speeding off on the bike. And he's like, you're not getting away. And he ran by foot after him. And luckily, a kid came out of nowhere and is like, what happened? What happened? He's like, catch that guy. He's on the bike. And so a biker actually was able to help him. So that's community. And that is bike community. And that same shop I was in just for, only 15, 20 minutes the other day. And I make the next 3 days later, I'm making my commute to my mom's. And sure enough, they're like, hey, you were in John's, the shop yesterday. And I'm like, oh my God, that community of bike people are just out there. They're there to help us. And
which shop was it?
State True Cyclery.
Okay. Yeah.
With John. John is great. So doing some great work with regular manual bikes as well as electric. So I go to him as he's my neighborhood bike shop, which is 13 miles away because he does work on my e-bikes so well.
Right.
So, but I love my neighborhood Bernie's shop and everyone in between as well.
They put in a bunch of new infrastructure in that little part of town, right? At Stay True, didn't they put a bunch of circles and cool stuff?
So this was in the time where it was still fenced off.
Yeah, that was a mess.
Oh, so I'm happy for them that they can get that, and I'm happy for them that they're working with La Mesa as well with their e-bike program, and they're doing some great work out there.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. So in terms of like, you ride Four Seasons, obviously.
I ride
we both
Four Seasons,
do.
and I also am very much supporting anybody who wants to, especially women who want to get out there and learn how to ride. They're willing to, anybody's willing to contact me, and I call this house the Velocita. So if you're ever on Sunset Cliffs on a bike, come by. If you need a bathroom, if you need a cup of coffee, I'm here.
Yeah.
I actually was like, God, I wish I could like almost open up and be like, okay. And then like,
well, and it's so cool because part of your like your cred comes from like all these different people that I've spoken to that are like, yeah, she really like helped me, made a real difference in me cycling now. Like, you've actually affected a lot of people and a lot of infrastructure in this town.
And politicians. So I think the best one was Lori Zaff. And she was our D2 representative, 8 years ago?
Okay.
And, she did actually really good stuff. She got her little roundabout at Bacon and Voltaire, West Paloma.
Okay.
She did that little roundabout out of Robb Field.
Okay.
So we got that in that era, which actually we did some great work back then. Mm-hmm. But I took her on a class 1 on the beautiful OB bike path, and then, got on a little bit of class 2, and then had to go across the station to get over to the trolley station across Morena. Mm-hmm. And literally she was just
terrified.
And she's like, can we get on the sidewalk? And I'm like, no, you need to hold on and get to that. And as soon as you hit it was green paint was like the new thing. Uh-huh. And as soon as we hit the green paint, she like,
I feel safe.
You could feel like her feeling safer.
Wow.
And it was the most powerful thing, like to see politicians when they can get on there, like, and that is one of my biggest things about, I just wish Mayor Gloria, I know he means well. I know he wants to support our efforts.
Yeah.
But he truly doesn't understand what it feels like to be on a bike. You don't feel it unless you are out there doing it.
Right.
And know all the benefits and all the wonderful things that can come to you when you ride a bike, and the social and the awareness and the health and all of it comes to you. And then you understand how easy it can happen if you were to make these small changes in our infrastructure. And until you get out there and do it, you don't understand. And that's why I love like Councilmember Elo Rivera. Like he is on the bicycle. He understands the value.
Right.
And he talks about how his commute is like so much more efficient and safer when you get these beautiful projects in.
Yeah, we get really great sort of champions every once in a while, but the numbers are still very one-sided. We'll only have a couple in, be it the city council or the Sandag board. We'll have a couple of champions, but it's not enough to legislate.
It's very hard because we have a general public that really despises us still. So, when you get when you don't have a backbone to stick up to them and tell them the story about it, because you don't know how to tell the story. If you don't ride, you don't know how to tell the story as well. So the council members that ride can actually be the advocates that tell the story better. And they're the ones at Sandag. There's a few of them that ride, and them.
Yeah,
they support it. Jack Shue is amazing. Jack Shue is
from La
Mesa, and he rides to Sandag, and it's when you can.
So maybe a group bike ride among Sandag board members.
Would that
be a thing? Would they show up for that?
So with Hassan, I could kind of pose those kind of things. I'm like, come on, your retreat. Let's go let's start with transit. I don't even know if we need to start with bikes for those board members. We first need to get them on the coaster and the trolley and the sprinter and the bus, BRTs, and show them how wonderful the loop can be. And I'm like, Hassan, why don't we take, your board retreat and do breakfast in Oceanside via coaster, lunch in Ocean. Did I say that right? Oceanside, and then lunch in Escondido with that mayor, and then BRT at home. I mean, what a retreat would that be on the road, right? Isn't that what we talk about? Mobility?
Bikes would be better.
Bikes would totally be better. But
bikes would be better, and we could do maybe a 5-mile ride of terror with the Sandag board, and really show them how much danger there is out there, and maybe that would change a couple of minds.
It was beautiful because this last time, like I said, I got back to Sandag and I was able to share the story of Mayor Rebecca Jones, and Mayor Blakespear at the time. She was in Encinitas, now senator. And I got them, it was a ribbon cutting on a Thursday for a bike project up in North Park. And Catherine Blakespear was there, and she's like, well, the board meeting got canceled tomorrow. You want to go on experience some bike riding up in my area, up in Solana Beach? And I'm like, all right. Rebecca Jones, maybe you want to join us. And we ended up going up to her district in San Marcos, meeting her and doing the Inland Rail Trail. And, to have Mayor Rebecca Jones, who's very vocal against bike pass on Sandag board,
right,
was quite amazing on a bike. I mean, she came decked out in pink. She had pink everything. Like, she was white and pink and looking beautiful, smiling, gorgeous. You wouldn't expect that from Mayor Rebecca Jones. And
Did she have fun?
Oh my God, she had a great time. And to watch her and Catherine Blakespear talk about what works in each of their cities, what they do together with women and families and health, and how much they had in common in respect to not having some things in common on a board, was beautiful to see. And, really highlighting that, your community has this infrastructure and you're lucky to have this. And San Marcos has 6,800 miles of off-road trails as well. So for a city to have that much infrastructure and then have her be vocally against it at Sandag is heartbreaking, because her residents are actually, experiencing it. And that's what I was fighting for University Avenue. And basically you couldn't take a ride together today and have that kind of conversation that they were able to have, and that experience that they were able to have, because there is no good bike infrastructure in that on University right now.
Well, that's kind of the thing is with the politicals, the ride of terror might be more useful than the lush, safe ride through the rail trail.
And so I think the biggest one, and let's just start with one at a time first, is probably Mario, the executive director. And I've heard that he wants to kind of release the funding of Sandag funding, that we have that 2% Transnet funding. We're able to implement great projects in San Diego, Pershing, Rose Creek Bikeway, the Inland Rail Trail, the Coastal Rail Trail, all these wonderful bike projects. And now Mario's like, maybe we should leave it up to the cities. Well, show me, Mario, any city project that is remotely as good as any Sandag project. If we don't have Sandag building these projects, we're just not going to have the connectivity and the great infrastructure that Sandag is building for us.
Okay, so he's new there, and he's got experience with it's a state organization, right? So, with Caltrans.
He came from Caltrans. I think riding with kids and families is amazing. I mean, drivers definitely look after you. So I encourage anybody with kids. The bike train was the best thing in my life. It was the most amazing thing. And when you can actually get 2, 3, you only need a couple. And all of a sudden it becomes contagious. It's the best thing out there.
Well, and now with the electric cargo bikes and everything, it's really, really easy for people. And it's definitely proliferating in serious ways, yet the infrastructure is not kept up. But
right.
So with sort of Sandag leadership, the way Sandag's sort of organized, I don't know if it's a fair number to ask for, but what percentage of Sandag's budget, for example, would be active transportation?
2%.
2%.
2%.
And, you know, bicycling is one of the things, like we kind of talked about, where there's really not disadvantages from a cultural perspective of doing it. Like there are all these gains, whether it's using less fuel, whether it's, you know, operating, you know, lightweight vehicles that don't tear up the infrastructure. You know, the health of the community is affected in a positive way. There's all of these just add-on effects, yet we're investing 2% of our transportation budget on this. Just, you know, 2% we're investing in just this beautiful thing that could really save us long term, and we have a very small number of obnoxious.
That is the only, yeah.
Just obnoxious sort of people that are getting in the way of us growing that 2% and really putting in meaningful infrastructure so we can, you know, our kids and grandkids can have a future. Because otherwise, you know, the way this is going now, we can't even keep with spending 98%. With the 98% that they're spending on roads and various other projects, they're still not keeping up with the maintenance on. I mean, if you've been on a road in San Diego, you know it's not being maintained. Yet we're spending this.
We're going to continue. It's a continue. That is a funding that we will continue in our lifetime if we continue to cater to cars, right?
Yeah.
Like and more deliveries are just going to, and more electric cars are heavier. So they're all going to deteriorate the roads faster.
Yeah.
I will say there is definitely a correlation in spending. There's also a correlation in our cap goals. So we have climate-related goals of getting X% on bike, right, by X year. In 2012, when I took the kids down to Sandag, there was actually a kid that held up the paper of the correlation that shows we spend 2% on bikes, active transportation, therefore we get 2% ridership. You see in Portland, they spend 6% and they get 6 to 8% ridership. In Holland, they spend 40% on bicycle infrastructure. They get 40%.
That's interesting.
There is a comparison in Minneapolis, 18%. You get 18. I mean, you spend the money and you will get the results. You will get the results, but we have not committed to spending the money.
Yeah, we have grossly underinvested in bicycle infrastructure here,
and that happens.
And with all the work that you've done, and we're still at 2%. Otherwise, we would have been at 1%. Unfortunately,
no, we're always at 2% because that's in their like whatever their statement of Sandag policies, right?
Yeah.
But digging down into the city as well, because you got Sandag and then you have the city, so you have two bits that can both improve our infrastructure.
Right.
And in my opinion, Sandag should be doing the long corridors that are going over the highways and the rivers that are super challenging.
The longer distance coordination,
the bridges, the bigger corridors, right, along those where there's super big barriers.
And the city should do the surface streets and the city streets.
Yes, and the neighborhood greenways. And but you have a transportation fund that's what, 85 million this year. So I just listened to the budget this morning, budget review for the city, and literally we're scraping for dollars to try to get safe routes to schools. To get a few little pieces when we have all our streets. We just spent millions resurfacing our streets in Point Loma, and they're on some of the best bikeways. That Bike Boulevard, Bacon was slated as a bike boulevard. Lori Zaff got us around about 10 years ago, and yet our administration can't put the rest of the Bike Boulevard in.
Nothing's connected.
Because why? Because why? Why?
Right.
Because there's no effort. The leadership in the city has no idea how wonderful it is. They talk it.
Right.
They're so scared of the general public.
To take away a lane of traffic to install a bike lane in this town
it's parking as well.
Yeah.
We can take away 10 parking spots and people will freak out and cry. But if you add a mixed use development that adds 100 residents and need 100 new parking spots, I mean, what's the difference, right? We have to include the density, and then, it doesn't help to put more cars on the road. We've got to allow us to get around. And
Right.
we know when we go up to like University Heights, this is foolish to get in a car. Like, come on, let's just go over there by bike or foot, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's easier. And for the most part, anywhere in San Diego, you can typically get there by bike in about a reasonable time if you consider parking and getting to door destination.
If you're brave. And sort of aggressive, and yeah, you can definitely get there from here. Cool. Well, do you have any other stories that you would like to share, or any other?
Well, I encourage anybody to get out there, and I appreciate everybody who does get out there and ride. The bike traveling is a wonderful thing, and it's amazing how you can actually experience this world.
So you do a lot of sort of like basically you'll go on a trip and you'll do a bike tour on that trip, but I think you, like me, like when we go to Europe, we go for a month or 6 weeks or something like that, just so we can spend time there and we don't feel like we wasted all of that jet fuel to getting there and back, because we feel that, sort of thing. So, you go over and you'll do like a bike tour of various.
I have the privilege of getting to stay long, but there can be just even overnight, or it's amazing what a bike overnight does. And San Diego has it year round.
Yeah.
So San Alejo has hiker sites. Okay. So you could ride. How many times has anybody tried to get a
it's right up at Cardiff, right?
San Alejo, right?
Yeah.
Cardiff. It's actually very difficult during the summer months.
Oh yeah.
But as a biker, you can actually go with your friend, pack your bike up, pack your tent, and go camp there for I think it's $6 to $10.
Wow.
For the night.
Take a surfboard.
There's also a wonderful organization called Warm Showers.
Yeah.
So that's like couch surfing. It's a community just for people who want to tour and travel by bike. So I'm on there, and there's hundreds of people internationally in San Diego and internationally.
Mm-hmm.
And they're amazing resources, and it's really about accommodations is the most expensive part of a trip.
And all you have to do is like put somebody up, and there's not really a fee to it, right?
Like you put somebody up in your house, and then when you travel, you get to use somebody else's. And so, I just had a young guy from China. He traveled from San Francisco to San Diego. I had another woman that was from Ireland. She traveled from Seattle to San Diego. Those are both amazing trips.
Yeah, you meet some really interesting people.
San Francisco to San Diego is only like 10, a week. So you have a week vacation and an amazing coastline that you would never, ever experience. Like, I don't ever want to visit LA in a car. Like, it's amazing and so fun to see it in person and on a bike.
Yep.
And any city, right? Like you actually get to see a city when you go at the speed of a bike.
Mm-hmm.
And walking, you can see a lot walking. I see a lot, and I'm appreciative of walking. But you just get to see a little bit more when you're on a bike.
There are a couple hairy spots between here and San Francisco.
Sure.
But
there's always a little
reward,
train that can get you there too.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And just knowing that, those hairy and challenging places, I guess I could say that for anywhere that you're driving 60 miles per hour with the people that we drive. No, okay. I'm talking about when you go on a freeway, just driving to Escondido, and you're going at 75 miles per hour, and you don't know who you are actually driving with. And I have actually been with some 30-year-olds that have driven me. I'm like, I don't know if I need to drive with you again. Like, it is challenging and scary to be
dangerous
in a car.
Yeah.
So don't ever overestimate the bike as being scarier, because the speeds are lower. So if you can transverse on those lower traffic roads and not be on those high speed roads, you're actually safer than in a car.
Yeah.
So
if you can stay away from the cars.
Yes.
That's the secret.
Yes. And I will say there's a fun one that I did when I was, just starting to you're self-conscious about the environment and your travels. So why don't you start with I'm going to try to bike more miles than I did drive that week.
Mm-hmm.
And then can I bike more miles that year than I did drive that year?
Yeah.
And then That's a fun one.
I jumped in like with both feet when I sort of transitioned, if you will. And I went from probably, 8 and 500 miles on my bike, or 1,000 miles maybe on my bike, to going 8,000 miles on my bike and like 1,000 miles maybe in my car.
Right.
And it was that quick a transition, and it was wonderful.
When
like
you
there was
start
no adjustment period. It was
when you start comparing and you start looking, it is like that, right?
because you don't want to go back.
No, you see the joy and the beauty is there.
Yeah,
it's there. It's there for everyone.
Yeah,
and we just can't be scared. And I will say, having a comfortable bike. So really understanding that there are comfortable bikes. There's amazing bikes. And then there's ones that you're like, oh, this isn't so good. After 20 miles, my butt hurt. Like there it is real. So, make sure you're comfortable. Understand that
efficient.
You don't have to wear spandex. You don't have to wear crazy clothes. You can just, find the joys of being on a good, comfortable bike that gets you to and from places, right?
Yeah. It's very important. Very important. So how do we sort of discussed Sandag and sort of the safety that needs to happen and hopefully will at some point in the future. But how do we get more individuals to make that transition? Would you say, is there a I mean, it like you've done for years and years, just volunteering your time to go out and take somebody for a ride like you did Hazel.
Ambassadors are nice. But I will say the one that I keep pushing over the years for the city to do is like a healthy commuter incentive program.
Okay.
So we have City of San Diego, and you have your climate action plan goals to get, tell me some of the, what is it, 6% ridership? We'd love
that
6%,
would be great,
right?
yeah.
Well, City of San Diego has thousands of employees. How do you get them to ride? Well, right now we pay for their parking. Right? Take that away. Unbundle parking.
Yeah.
That's huge. County does that. So, give them $300 to pay for whatever the commute they want.
Yeah.
Don't restrict it to just free parking.
Yeah.
And then incentivize them. How do you incentivize them? Well, monetary is one thing, but honestly, sometimes just an hour off on a Friday. You bike to work 5 days a week. You can leave at noon today.
I'll tell you, that's a really good point.
Like really showing them the value. And then the beauty is that let's just take the transportation department and try to get 6% of those people to ride. Now you have the engineers that are designing your streets. Be more cautious of how they're going to paint that street, how they're going to design that street. You have the people that are working the roads that are like, oh, communication, how we come out and communicate it is all changes as soon as you get those behaviors to change.
So there's a lot we can do.
Oh,
there's a lot we can do.
Bike SC actually did a white paper on a healthy incentive program, and I've tried to run it through Sandag as well because they have the iCommute.
I love the financial is obvious. I love the time component of that, where you'd say, okay, if you drive, because we know that your commute will take longer on a bike. Okay, if you're driving, come in at 8. If you're are riding a bike, come in at 8:15, 8:30.
Right.
Boom, done.
Yeah.
I mean,
like have a little bit of grace period for those people.
Yeah.
And then just incentivize if you're a parent and your kid, like most kids, find the freedom of riding, and it's wonderful. And I kind of like got a little crazy because I was like, I don't ever want to drive you kids. So you got to like ride your bike everywhere. And all of a sudden it became almost like a chore. And so I was like, oh, I'll incentivize you. So, it costs 70 cents a mile to drive a car. So, and that's all inclusive, right? Of a car, driving a car. So, I'll give you a little extra because it's healthy.
A little extra allowance.
A little extra, and I'll give you $1 a mile to ride your bike.
Cool.
And so, when a kid, gets $20, the beauty is that it actually goes into a savings account.
Right.
And is amazing. And
they can buy their next bike with it. At 13
years old, the kid is like, I'm going to go buy him a pair of shoes. He's like, that's okay, Mom. I've got my own money. And I'm like, oh my God, you do. This is amazing. And go buy your own, whatever you want. Right.
Cool.
So that was
Yeah.
really like a saving grace for my kids, like, you know, to incentivize them. It was impactful.
Incentives are important.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Is there anybody that you would like to sort of shout out or suggest as somebody who has sort of we're trying to have very diverse people from different life experiences and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anybody like that you think would be interesting?
I had a few, and I was like, who are they now? Because I'm like, who would it be?
We'll get them from you later if
I mean, there's so many wonderful writers out there, and
yeah.
You know, I think there's a lot. I think there's some amazing city employees. I mean, you know, Brittany Bailey is a great advocate that's been inside, you know, really experienced what it was like to be a newcomer on the road and work in the city trying to advocate for those things, and, you know, really trying to get her kids and her husband to ride and getting e-cargo bikes, and, you know, really has transformed. You know, I've seen her inside, you know, both, you know, working within the city as well as being an advocate and trying to promote it herself as well. You know, she's done great work.
Cool. I would definitely reach out to her. I think she's right in my neighborhood.
There's so many. I could ramble off all the ones at Sandag.
You know them all,
and Josh, and they're all fabulous.
Well, tell you what, maybe I'll press you at some point for some, and you know what we're trying to accomplish, and I think we're both on the same page in terms of how maybe how we can sort of work our way in and hopefully.
And my question for you is, you know, how are we getting the information out? How can we get this, you know, more or how do we even get it to like table over to like, why isn't Sandag or the city, you know, talking about this conversation?
Right.
You know, how does it kind of fold over into those kind of efforts, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you've spent way more time at Sandag meetings than I have, but having a trusted voice at, you know, like you, that sort of knows and has been familiar, I think could be very, very powerful and important just with, you know, connection wise, you know, just in future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't know.
And getting some, maybe even Shawnee Rivera.
Yeah.
Like he would be fabulous because he is a spokesperson, but yet sometimes he's quiet sometimes. And so it would be interesting to know, but maybe politicians aren't allowed to be on, you know, or
I'll reach out to him. No, Sean's
like
cool.
He's great, you know,
Cool.
and he, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at your comfortable bike.
Oh, love to.
All
of them. All of them.
Show us your whip, Nicole.
Okay, so
look at this thing.
Yeah, this is a beautiful bike. The beauty of it is that it's step through. So as a woman, actually even then, I mean, there's nothing better than to be able to just like hop right through, right? I couldn't imagine having a bar that I was like, every time I had to get off, right, and on. The Brooks saddle, nice comfortable saddle. I am a big fan of
What
the Brooks
year is
saddle.
this? This is an older design, right?
Yeah, it's pretty similar though. The Mixty is a beautiful Mixty frame.
It's really cool.
I will say it is beautiful for bike yoga because I can get my foot up here and do all kinds of, you know, hence the bike yoga bar. So there's nothing wrong with trying to fly down a hill and having fun and stretching.
So it's
this is the Cafe Lock. I have the two baskets for plenty of gear. I do love this. I actually feel like I'm an extra wide load, so I'm very visible.
Yeah.
I do believe in the internal lights. I'm a big fan of it. So I have a
dynamo.
Thank you. Dynamo hub with the lights on the front and in the back.
Yeah, so no batteries other than for the wheel lights.
And I honestly believe the lights are the most important thing during the day. Like, I almost feel like they're lights, hands down, are so important during the day and in traffic and in big cities when there's a lot of shade and tunnels. So I definitely love my lights. I do love a good kickstand, so I can just be anywhere, park my bike. This is a front rack, so it can carry bags for touring. I do love my odometer because then I give myself $1 a mile oftentimes, right? Like I rode 20 miles today. I should get lunch, right? So I do love a good mirror. This one is not the best, I will say. This one on here, rotating over to the newer one is from Germany. So Europeans tend to make a steel frame bike step through for women much better. There's only the 3 in America as women to find a steel frame bike. So steel is oftentimes more comfortable to tour on, right? You don't want to tour on an aluminum bike. It's not very comfortable.
Yeah. It's just chattery, right?
Yeah. And so there's only 3 step through bikes in America. So I went to Europe and I'm like, I'm going to buy a new bike. And so the Fahrrad is German for bike, Fahrrad manufacturer.
Is this the one that you've always
bike.
had?
This is an amazing bike.
Is this the one you've had for a while? Okay.
Yeah, 5 years. So I got it in Munich.
Yeah.
And it came fully decked out with front rack, rear rack, lights, everything. It was the most beautiful bike. Now I've swapped up a couple things because it's been, many, many years. But
each of these bikes, I bet,
bike.
have what? How many miles would you say is on this bike? Like a lot, probably. Probably 30, 40,000. Yeah, I mean, in the tens of thousands of miles for sure.
I think I did 5,000 last year. So, and I will say, for anybody who is interested, like Strava's a great little resource that I was really against at first because I'm like, oh, that's for those people who want to go fast and beat records and everything. But, it's really helpful for me to just be like, okay, well, I ride so many different bikes. So how many miles do I ride in the whole year? It tells me.
Yeah.
It also shows me what days I missed or, hot spots of the year. But I think most importantly, as new riders get on the road, if we can all use Strava, that is something that the city looks to as heat maps. So it looks to see where people are riding from Strava. So if we can use it for our daily trips with our dogs and our, our shopping trips, those trips will become more hotter. And more. It will see that we're riding down to the beach and riding here and there.
That's an interesting point. Just having that data is actually powerful when you're talking to.
Yes.
When you're trying to get funding.
We also have to be mindful of people who ride in groups and want to ride with traffic as being sometimes our opposition as well. Yeah. So we have to show them that, we ride on these other corridors as well.
Cool. So both of these are 3x, right? So probably
30
20
gears,
30 speeds. Let's see what else you got here. I mean, just this one's especially
the butterfly
interesting.
bars are amazing. You can have hands here, all over the place, right? It's fabulous. The bell is nice. Speaker.
Your little toe clips are interesting.
Toe clips are nice. Yes. I don't have my shoes on right now, but those are nice leather straps.
Yeah, so I've not seen those.
Did you make?
Oh no, you bought those. Wow, those are crazy.
I actually really like these toe clips too. They're hard to find though. They're open. I love
sturdy,
those.
open. Yep. No straps.
Those are great.
Cool.
But this one's lacking a mirror, but he put a mirror on my new electric bike, and it's really a nice mirror. I love a mirror as well.
Yeah, I do too.
And then I know helmets are kind of like, I hope everybody's wearing a helmet and a good helmet, right?
Yeah.
We're all good there.
Yeah.
Wear
a MIPS helmet.
Be mindful of that. The kids riding are doing great. They look like they're wearing the helmets as well. And
do you have a helmet for the dog?
No. Do they make them?
Oh yeah.
You have one?
I'll get you one. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's just for show, really. It might protect them a little bit.
I was going to say,
but
you're sitting. I was going to say you probably. Oh, never mind. I don't get to show them.
Cool.
I thought I had my lock.
No.
But I don't even have a patch kit. You just don't want to get patch. I don't think that's a barrier that anybody should worry about. Let's not worry about getting a flat. You get flats in a car. We'll learn how to work it out, right?
Okay.
So, I think that's something that people always worry about. Like, well, what happens if I get a flat? Well,
it's important to be able to change a flat.
We can learn and talk about that, but that shouldn't be a barrier, right?
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree.
We can evolve past that.
Yeah.
I mean, I do a 1,000-mile trip and I don't get a flat. Like, if you get good tires on your bike, you won't get a flat.
Yeah. Do you do like goo
I
in the
don't do
tires
goo
or
in it,
anything like that?
no.
I started
No.
using slime tubes.
I mean, the good tires are really
Yeah, it's
what's
huge.
going to help.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for showing us your bikes
Ah.
and your
Oh, I
hospitality.
guess that's
and
one last thing. Oh, can I say? The USB charger.
Oh, look at that.
When you can get your phone charging when you pedal, you're doing really good.
What is that all about?
That's
does
it
that
within the
run
house.
off of the dynamo?
Uh-huh.
How is that
Yeah.
even possible?
And I thought this one had it.
Is there a battery too? Is there an internal
There's
battery?
no battery. So you just plug it in. It actually works better with just a battery pack than it
that's
does the
crazy.
phone. But the new electric bike also has a USB charger
USB.
too. Mhm.
Cool. I want to check
So,
that out
I
too.
was going to say and just so you know, parents also, the tandem is super fun for kids when they get off the cargo bike. So we've got a lot of new families and they all get the cargo bikes and that's fabulous.
Yep. Until the kids are.
Kid is on the back at 4 or 5 years old. That's good. But about 5 or 6 years old, they're all of a sudden wanting to ride a bike. And when you see a 6-year-old on a bike in the street, you're like, nah. These kids want to move as much as we do, right? They want to pedal. They want to help.
Mhm.
So you see the trail bike and you see kids and they're helping and it's fun.
Mhm.
They're kind of wobbly.
Mhm.
You get the tandem and sure enough, you like got them on there. They can actually get in front when they get to be about 10 years old and they can drive you around.
Yeah.
I mean, the tandem is amazing. And you
Cool.
always have them, with you. Or you can drop them off and go pick them up later.
Yeah.
Like it's a beautiful thing. So
That's cool.
the tandem is fun.
Very cool. Well,
All
thanks
right.
again, Nicole.
Well, thank you very much.